In April 2003, an American mountaineer, Aron Ralston, went on a solo climbing trip in Utah's Canyonlands National Park. He navigated deep through the Blue John Canyon and he was having fun and wanted to go as far as possible. Just then, Aron heard a noise coming from above. Before he could take the next step, a dislodged boulder that weighed about half a ton came crashing down, and when the boulder settled, it nestled and stuck between the two sides of the canyon. As the boulder settled, it pinned down Aron's right arm to the rock. It was too heavy to move or dislodge. He could not go anywhere. Aron was trapped with no phone or any way to contact the outside world. It became a survival battle. At this point, a million thoughts were going through Aron's head. But the top of them all is how he could find his way out. This is no Hollywood. It was a life and death situation. The worst part of it is that he did not tell anybody about his plan on where he was going. He only had little food and a liter of water. It seems he was left for dead. But after spending 127 hours inside the canyon with his hands trapped to the rock, he did the most insane thing you can ever think of to free himself from the boulder. It takes courage, sacrifice, faith, and perseverance to do what he did to be alive. His initial plan was to slowly chip at the rock, hoping to get it to move and eventually separate his arm. But this plan didn't work. At this point, his mind was going delirious. Sometimes he would black out. He was losing strength and gradually giving up on himself. However, he decided to make a bold move. He reached out to the inexpensive small knife in his pocket. He made a crazy decision to cut off his arm. Yes, that sounds insane, but it was the only way Aron could survive. He took the small knife and started cutting through his arm. His plan was to separate himself from the arm in order to keep moving and escape to safety and possibly freedom. So he cut through his skin, agonizing in pain. After a while, he hit something solid, which was his arm's bone. He knew there was no way he could cut through the bone with such a small knife. He started using it more like an axe than a knife, tried to chop through the bone, but he was making very little progress. By the fifth day, he came to terms with the fact that he was going to die lonely and painfully in there. He just couldn't free himself from the boulder. He started hallucinating. As he was going into the sixth day, he dreamt of himself dead. When he woke up, he told himself he was not going to die. So on the sixth day, Aron took the most drastic measure as he tried to fling himself at the boulder to try and break his bones to the point where his arm would break off. He kept snapping his bones in pain, trying to break them so the arm would detach. Ordinarily, snapping the bones in your arm would be the worst feeling in the world, but to Aron, the sound was euphoric. Snapping his bones meant freeing himself from the trap he had been for long, painful hours. So after he had broken his arm bone free, he was able to cut through the rest of it and detach himself. After being trapped 127 painful, lonely and agonizing hours, Aron was finally free. But this was not the end of the story. In fact, it just began. At this point, he was bleeding seriously after detaching his arm from his body. And except he did something really fast, he was going to bleed to death. Like you already know at this point, Aron Ralston is a fighter and a survivalist. So he desperately strapped himself to a rope, scaled 65 feet northward and got out of the canyon. Fortunately for him, he was found by 3 Dutch tourists who helped get him the necessary help he needed to survive. A few moments later, a search and rescue helicopter with his family picked him up and took him to the hospital. He eventually survived and became a motivational speaker, helping to inspire people who needed the extra bit of courage. So let me ask you a question. If you were Aron Ralston in this situation, what would you have done? Would you have taken the bold move he took? Kindly share your thoughts in the comment below. Thank you.